would add this whole other category and a lot of headaches that go with it in terms of griddle space. And we've seen with Burger King, the lawsuits starting to roll in with vegans saying, hey, wait a second, you can't use the same spatula or you can't use the same flat top area for my vegan burger as the regular meat burger. So there are some logistical problems.
Wow.
So there's a lot to think about in terms of rolling something like that out at 38,000 restaurants. But then also another issue that I think is fairly unique to McDonald's is that they are really perceived as a value proposition. You know, they've got the dollar menu, which they kind of use as a cudgel in terms of, you know, the competition. They're really known as the value leader. They haven't done super well on a premium product. You know, they've tried lots of different premium burgers, and this would have to kind of fall into that category. There's no way they could offer it for under $5. So we're starting to creep into, you know, the super premium burger category, and it just hasn't been a great performer for them.
Interesting. We're speaking with Laura Riley, business of food reporter at the Washington Post. Her piece is called Restaurants Are All In on Plant-Based Burgers Except McDonald's. There was somebody in your story, too, who was critical of McDonald's just simply because saying they lack innovation. Like, is that part of this?
Yeah, you know, I think it was one of the experts I spoke with said, you know, think about it. When was the last time they were kind of innovators in terms of a product category? And I paused and I thought, yeah, I don't think I really remember them leading the charge in any particular arena. And one area that they've been also kind of far behind on is a great chicken sandwich. I mean, we've just been through the great chicken sandwich wars of 2019 with Popeye, et cetera. And McDonald's, a lot of their franchisees are really clamoring for a quality chicken sandwich that competes ably with the those other big ones, Chick-fil-A, et cetera. And I think that it's interesting that is the single item that most franchisees want to focus on. So I think maybe we'll even find McDonald's rolling out a plant-based or a blended chicken plant-based sandwich in the next year or two. So that could be another real interesting growth area to watch.
Wow. How about this PLT that they experimented with, the plant lettuce tomato sandwich?
I think that what I've heard, they don't give their numbers, but I think what I've heard is that it didn't perform in Southern Ontario as well as they hoped, just in terms of raw numbers. And that could be a difference in Canada versus the U.S. right now in terms of interest in plant-based. But you have to bear in mind, if they sold 100 of these at a franchise on a particular day, the company sells 6.48 million burgers a day. So this is a teeny drop in the bucket, when you really kind of take the full numbers into consideration here. So, yeah, I think it didn't do quite as well as they anticipated, but that doesn't mean if they rolled it out regionally in the U.S. that it wouldn't perform better.
Thanks, Laura. Laura Riley covers the business of food at the Washington Post. It's 30 minutes now after the hour on This Weekend. Let me tell you about my new favorite way to pass the time while commuting. It's the app called Blinkist. Blinkist works on your phone, your tablet, or your web browser. Blinkist takes the need-to-know information from thousands of nonfiction books and whittles it down to just 15 minutes. Successful people like business leaders are well known for reading self-improvement books. I just finished listening to Snowball, a Warren Buffett biography. Listen to Blinkist while commuting or maybe exercising, even while you're waiting for your kids to finish practice. Blinkist has the latest titles from bestseller lists as well as the classic nonfiction titles you always meant to read. I also like listening to some of the history titles since I never had much good history in school. Right now, for a limited time, Blinkist has a special offer just for our audience. Go to Blinkist.com/morning to try it free for 7 days and save 25% off your new subscription. That's Blinkist, spelled Blinkist, Blinkist.com/morning to start your free 7-day trial. You'll also save 25%, but only when you sign up at Blinkist.com/morning.
The news without the nonsense. You're listening to America's First News This Weekend with Gordon Deal.
Hey, it's final weekend in January. Glad you could join us. Gordon Deal, Jennifer Kashenka. Coming up this half hour, the privacy problem that few are discussing. Also, how scent kits help canine detectives in the search for missing people. And the number of teams that cut Raheem Mostert before he broke out for the Niners last Sunday. We'll have that story in about 20 minutes. After months of surging numbers of people sickened and dying from vaping-related lung illnesses, the outbreak appears to be ebbing. Without clear answers to what caused the lung injuries, myths and misconceptions about the potential dangers gain traction. More on what they are from this weekend's Jennifer Kashenka.
A few years ago, most of us hadn't heard a lot about vaping, but this year it's been one of the major stories of the year. What do we really know about it? Jane O'Donnell of USA Today has researched some myths and misconceptions about illnesses tied to vaping and joins us now. And Jane, are problems arising from vaping nicotine or marijuana or both?
It's a little bit of both. Most people that have ended up hospitalized with lung illnesses, almost all of them, like 80%, vaped either THC alone or THC with nicotine. And the only true culprit that the federal and state investigators have honed in on is vitamin E acetate, which is an ingredient added to vape THC oil to kind of, it's like a combination of thinning and thickening in it, if that makes sense, but it's basically to make it work better in the device, but also it makes it go farther. So the lung illnesses really are THC. But there are a stubborn number of, say, 10 to 20% of people insist they only vaped nicotine. So investigators are trying to figure out whether they are young people who weren't fully candid, or there is something that's causing lung illness from nicotine vaping.
Is that vitamin E acetate been found in all THC products, or is that not clear either?
Yeah, not all of the ones. Most of the ones the government has tested, but not every single one. But they really do think it is the big cause. But they are very insistent on that they are still investigating and looking into other ingredients. I mean, I will say that I have reported, as have others, about a variety of cases around the country that had very high doses of pesticides in the products. It's often unclear what's quote unquote legal and what isn't, because you might be thinking you're buying from a legal dispensary and it might be an unlicensed dispensary. So there are all sorts of gray areas when it comes to buying THC, marijuana, that is.
We're speaking with Jane O'Donnell of USA Today. Now, Jane, as you kind of alluded to, sometimes these products are bought online or in stores, and then we heard stories about perhaps the people who were getting ill were getting them from some odd source that, wasn't regulated. Is that true?
Oh, yes, very much so. So, sometimes they're called street dealers, but street dealers it can be all sorts of things. They can. I've interviewed a man who went to a very large outdoor kind of, like, for lack of a better word, like an open air flea market kind of thing for marijuana related products, where they were selling some of these dank vapes and some of these other brands that were found to be only counterfeit. They are not, none of them were ever sold legally. And they you could buy like so many things, you could go online and buy the cartridges in China or somewhere else, get them shipped here, and then people were kind of like the meth labs or whatever. People were at home making these kind of horrible concoctions that included pesticides and other things, and putting them in the devices, naming them something, buying the labeling overseas, and then creating a product that looked just like a legitimate product that already existed, or just looked like a legitimate product. So yes, that was a very big part of the problem.
This weekend's Jennifer Kashenka with Jane O'Donnell from USA Today. Thanks for being with us. In the new digital age climate, influencers actually do not want to know your name or home address. They'd much rather know your behaviors and traits. The fact that you don't know you are in that group is a key part of what makes you so vulnerable. So says Chris Atigeka, founder of the Institute for Unintended Consequences of Technology. He's based in the San Francisco Bay Area and has written an opinion piece in the Boston Globe about this. Chris, how do you see it?
Well, self-targeting, so one of the big misconceptions that people, when they talk about privacy, they're always thinking about, someone looking at their age and their zip code and their personal information. But really, what art agencies and individuals who are advertising, what they are really interested in is less about your personal information, but a group that you belong into. So they can create a category around you, age, your zip code, and there's some vulnerable groups and kind of shoot ads towards that group.
What makes a group vulnerable here?
Well, so let's take an example of, let's say, predatory lending, right? So they would get information around a zip code of a certain group of people who, need that information, and then put serious messaging, predatory messaging, basically, shot directly at that group. You could look at it from like the bail money perspective. So it's a huge society problem. It's less of a personal problem, but more, the fact that you herded into this group and you have no idea that you're actually in this group, and the fact that we're also in the election year, that's also playing a huge role.
We're speaking with Chris Ategeka. He's the founder of the Institute for Unintended Consequences of Technology, based in the Bay Area. And he's co-written a piece in the Boston Globe called The Other Bigger Privacy Problem, and he's referencing stealth targeting. Okay, so part of me, when I initially was reading this, I thought, well, this is really what we want as consumers and what advertisers want, this specific grouping, so you're not wasting your time advertising, a children's toy for a 50-year-old man. We can finally target in, but this is different level stuff.
Oh no, this is the opposite.
Yeah,
the opposite, where you, if you're an advertiser and you're putting an ad out there, well, you are supposed or should be required to register somewhere in this national targeting registry, whereby that way there's some level of accountability. The biggest problem right now, there isn't a whole lot of accountability because people can put information out there that's false, and the ads you see are different from the ads I see. The fact that you're in the dark and I'm in the dark, they can do anything, whenever, whatever they want. So the National Targeting Registry is meant to kind of force these folks to put whatever ads they put out into the world, they put it into the registry, that anyone who would like to see why they got targeted, when they got targeted, which group they got targeted into, then that will force these companies and individuals that are advertising to be a little more accountable and give accurate information.
Thanks, Chris. Chris Ategeka, founder of the Institute for Unintended Consequences of Technology. It is 15 minutes now in front of the hour on This Weekend.
I'm not a big talker. I am a big doer. But sometimes the only way to solve the problem is to get on the horn and figure it out. So the only people I like talking to? Grainger. With knowledgeable product experts, ready with the answers to my toughest questions, calling Grainger is the one conversation I don't mind having. From machining and motor parts to valves and vacuum pumps. When it comes to solving my problems, Grainger's got my back. Call, click Grainger.com, or stop by to see for yourself. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Total access to the world. You're listening to America's First News. This Weekend with Gordon Deal.
Thanks for spending time with us. A small police department in northern New Jersey is offering residents free scent kits, as they're called, hoping to give their Bloodhound canine unit more precise smells to pursue in emergencies involving missing people, whether they're seniors who've wandered off or maybe special needs children. It's a story by Leslie Brody, reporter at the Wall Street Journal. Leslie, what's up in Maywood, New Jersey?
Maywood police say they're the first police department in the country to give out these scent kits, they're called, to residents who have someone in their family who may tend to wander off, like an elderly person with dementia or a child with autism. They say that it's a big help to their canine unit, their Bloodhound, who tracks people down using smell, if they get a really strong scent item, they call it, a piece of gauze that can have the scent of the person they're trying to track down. So they're offering these kits to families, and the kit has gloves and a piece of gauze and instructions on where to put it on the person's body, like a neck or armpit, to get a good scent. Then you put it in the plastic bag and you put it in the freezer, and then if your person goes missing, you can give this sort of very pristine object of scent to the police dog to help track down your loved one.
Oh, wow. So so you used a piece of gauze, I guess, to you rub it on the person's body? Is that what happens?
Right. And the idea is to get a very pristine, unique scent. Like if the police said that sometimes if someone goes missing and they say to a family, hey, give us